Dive deeper into all of this with Democratic Congresswoman Sherry Bustos of Illinois. She joins me live from D.C. She's going to be attending tonight's State of the Union address. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good to see you again. We know this is arguably a very important address for many reasons, but I would say that most Americans would agree this is the single most challenging year of any president in recent history. We could make comparisons to previous administrations, but President Biden has had a full year. And as Joe mentioned, our exclusive NewsNation poll found that 57% of voters have disapproved of Biden. 45% view the president as a clear and effective communicator. A lot of Americans on both sides of the aisle, Democrats, Republicans, are frustrated right now. Can President Biden regain any ground?
You know, this is an opportunity to address the nation, the biggest audience that President Biden will have addressed since he's been president, his very first State of the Union. And I think he will lay the groundwork to say this is what he has done as President of the United States, passed the biggest infrastructure package since the Eisenhower days, that we passed the Rescue Act that put money in people's pockets, that lifted almost half of the children out of poverty. We're getting on the tail end of the pandemic, and we've got a war in Europe that's going on right now where President Biden has rallied our allies, and we are very much unified as the nations that love democracy, and we're going to do everything we can to get past that as well. So I think he'll lay the groundwork for what he has done and then address the challenges, one of which is what's happening in Ukraine right now, second of which is inflation. And but I think he'll lay out a plan for how he will address inflation as well.
Well, you know, it's interesting because the domestic agenda that he intended, Build Back Better, was put on the back burner, so to speak, in large part because of disunity among Democrats. Will the point of this speech be in large part to resurrect some of his infrastructure plans?
Yeah, well, I'd push back a little bit on that it was largely because of disarray among the Democrats. Keep in mind there were all of 0 Republicans over on the Senate who were willing to support the Build Back Better Act. You know, we need a little cooperation if we're going to actually build our nation back again. And we didn't have one senator on the Republican side of the aisle who was willing to work with us. That said, the price tag attached to it was one that a couple of the senators weren't able to get their arms around. So we're willing to adjust that in a way that we'll be able to get the votes necessary. The way President Biden, what he called it was that we are going to break this up into chunks. You know, I think another way to look at it is that this is the legislative process. It can be pretty messy when you're talking about items with big price tags, but we're willing to put in that work. We're willing to make sure that we are building our nation back, that we are creating millions of jobs to build bridges and roads and make sure that rural broadband is in every community of our country. All of that is within grasp, and we're going to hear from President Biden today or this evening how that's all going to be rolled out.
Well, even piecemealing President Biden's domestic agenda, it's been eclipsed in large part, at least from our eyes, with this agenda in Europe and endeavoring to supply military support to the Ukrainian people. You're a member of the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Defense. What are the important talking points regarding Russia and Ukraine that President Biden needs to share tonight with the American people?
I think that President Biden has done a remarkable job of working with our allies. This is the most unified approach to sanctions, the toughest sanctions that we have ever done as a world. Literally, you have 2/3 of the world's economy that is imposing sanctions on Russia. This was an unprovoked war that Russia is engaging in. They are killing civilians. As we speak right now, Adrian, they have a convoy 40 miles long getting ready to go into Kiev and do untold damage. I think what we can take away from this is that the Ukrainian people, led by President Zelensky, really are a role model for the rest of the world. They're standing strong. They're fighting back. We are with them. Our troops are on the border of Ukraine. They are not a NATO nation, so we're not going to go in there. We obviously don't want this to lead to a bigger war than it already is, but we are there for Ukraine to the tune of about $1 billion in rockets, in missiles that we are sending in. The world is sending in help as well through military supplies. So look, this is going to be a tough row ahead. There's no doubt about it. It is not going to be over within the next few days or the next few weeks. This could be something that lasts for a very, very long time. But what is at stake is literally the world order. And we've got a country, a European country that has a very fresh democracy, a democracy that's only been there since 1991. And so we've got to do what we can to preserve that as the democracy-loving nations throughout the world.
I would love to talk to you more about what the American people would have to say about those comments and about what the president's going to say. But I noticed you're wearing blue and yellow, and a number of women are going to be wearing blue and yellow, as seen tonight in the president's address, right?
Yeah, so we want to stand in solidarity with Ukraine. And so, you know, a lot of us are on various text chains. I'm on a text chain with a lot of women members. And the speaker had asked all the women to just wear bright colors to show our diversity of our caucus. And a group of us said, well, let's wear bright blue and bright yellow, which are the colors of the Ukrainian flag, to show that we're in solidarity with them.
Unity is something that all of us are hoping for. Congresswoman Sherry Bustos, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Adrian.